little quiz. In the spirit of being green, I'm not going to hand out pieces of paper, so we'll all just answer the questions together. Number one, where does MMWD get its water from? Is it A, 100% from our own lakes? Is it B, 50% from our own reservoirs and 50% from Hetch Hetchy, which is near Yosemite? Is it C, 75% from our own lakes and 25% from the Russian River? Or is it D, 85% from our reservoirs and 15% from groundwater? Who wants to take a shot?
C.
That's correct. C, correct answer. So 75% comes from our own lakes near Mount Tam, and we import 25% from the Russian River. Question 2. MMWD has a blank year supply when water storage is at capacity. Is it A, 2 to 3 year, B, 3 to 4, C, 4 to 5, or D, 5 to 6? Who has a guess? Go ahead.
E.
It's actually A. We only have about a 2-year supply when all of our reservoirs are full. Question 3. On average, MMWD produces how many million gallons per day of drinking water? Is it 7, 16, 21, or 25? Go ahead.
21.
Close. 25 million gallons per day is the average amount that we produce to meet all of our customer needs. Question 4, we're actually going to talk about in a couple slides, so I'm going to skip over that one. It's about the cost of water. Number 5, which of the following is not an MMWD reservoir? Bontempi, Nicasio, Arrowhead, or Phoenix? Yes.
C.
Correct, Arrowhead. The rest are lakes on our watershed. And then real basic question for number 6, how much of the Earth's water supply is fresh water? 3%, 7%, 10%, or 13%? What about you? A, correct, 3%. And then even less than 3% is actually water that can be harvested by us, because that 3% includes glaciers where water is trapped and you can't access it. So the topics for the discussion today: MMWD, who we are, what we do, where our water comes from, how much water we use, everyday water use, and ways to conserve. So MMWD stands for Marin Municipal Water District. We're a public agency that provides drinking water to 185,000 people in Marin County. And it's our mission to manage our natural resources in a sustainable manner and to provide our customers with reliable, high-quality water at a reasonable price. And what is a reasonable price, do you think? So this chart shows the cost of some typical items that you'll see in your everyday life. The cost of a gallon of gas, maybe $4 right now. The cost of a gallon of milk, maybe $3. Orange juice is way up there, $5.99 a gallon. How much do you think 1 gallon of MMWD drinking water costs? What do you think?
2 cents.
Pretty close. What's your guess?
25 cents.
25 cents? It's actually half of a cent.
Oh.
So it's really cheap. I'd say that's a pretty reasonable price. And a penny will get you 2 gallons of water. So pretty good deal.
Wait, so if you wanted to buy just 1 gallon, you couldn't?
No, you can't just buy 1 gallon of water. The Marin Municipal Water District was established in 1912. We were the first water district in California. We have a 5-member board of directors, and each director is elected to represent one of 5 geographic areas. We offer free water use surveys, landscape and irrigation training, which those 2 items are the bulk of my job. And then we also offer school education programs, public information. We offer conservation rebates. And then we also own, protect, and manage over 20,000 acres of watershed lands that are in your quote-unquote backyard. Has anybody been to our watershed or knows where it is? Nope. Somebody, how about in the gray right here? Have you been to the watershed?
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's where all of our lakes are. It's the Mount Tam watershed. And a watershed is just a land area that drains into a river system or body of water. So when it rains up there, all of the runoff then collects into our reservoirs or lakes. And a reservoir is just a natural or artificial pond used for the storage of water. This is a picture of Bon Tempe. And we've got seven reservoirs on our watershed. Bon Tempe's obviously one of them. Who knows some others that are up there in the stripes? Yes.
Phoenix Lake.
Phoenix Lake, yes. Alpine, good. What was that? Okay. So, Lagunitas, Bon Tempe, Alpine, Phoenix, Kent, those are all on the Mount Tam watershed. And then we've got two others that are more in West Marin, kind of with funny names. One's called Nicasio, the other is called Sulakuli. So this is just a map of our lakes, and then all of the piping that we use to get water from the lakes to customers' homes and businesses. We have about 900 miles of pipe, 141 storage tanks, and 97 pump stations that allow us to do this. So water obviously has to get treated before it goes from our lakes to your house. It's a 5-step procedure. I won't bore you with the details, but it involves aeration, coagulation and flocculation, sedimentation, filtration, and disinfection. And it takes about 24 hours for water to get from one of our lakes and to go through this process and to then get to your house. And we conduct constantly tests throughout the year, over 120,000, to ensure the quality of your water, to make sure we've got enough disinfectant in it, that you don't have any bacteria, pollutants, chemicals, all those types of things. So up on the watershed is an ecosystem. I know you guys are learning about ecosystems currently. So just a collection of living things in the environment in which they live. So all the plants and animals up there, and we actually release a good chunk of the water that we store into nearby streams and creeks. We're required to do that by the state just to support all the fish and wildlife that live up there. So where does our water come from? Reservoirs that are up on the Mount Tamalpais watershed. How do those reservoirs get their water? Rain, yep. So like we talked about in the quiz, 75% of our water comes from these 7 lakes. 25% comes from the Russian River, which is in Santa Rosa. And I'm sure you guys have heard this nasty word a lot in the news, drought. A drought is a long period of abnormally low rainfall lasting up to several years. California is currently in the midst of a drought. This is a history of our rainfall, and you can see we've had several recorded periods of drought. One in the early 1900s, the big drought that was in the 70s, and then another drought in the late 80s, 90s, and then our current situation. The average average rainfall that we get up at Lake Lagunitas every year is about 52 inches. In 1890, we got 112 inches of rain. And then in 1924, we only got 18 inches. And actually, this slide needs to get updated because the new record low was set in 2013, and we only got about 10 inches. So pretty crazy. This is just a way of picturing the different amounts of rainfall. You can see a typical person that's 5 feet tall. 112 inches is about twice as tall as they are. And then you can see that low is 18 inches. It should actually be 10 inches, probably below knee level. And then what's really crazy to think is that as far as mankind has come and all of our different technologies and just how advanced we are, we're still completely dependent for now on Mother Nature. And how much water is available to us is dependent on how much rain we get, and we have no control over how much rain we get. What we do have control over is how we use water. So how many of you have used water today? Every single one of you, I bet, is going to put your hand up. Yep. So how much water do we use collectively every day? That was in the quiz when we first started. On average, we produce 25 million gallons per day. And just to give you an idea how much 25 million gallons is, if you picture a basketball court, so 50 feet by 94 feet, and if you picture putting a glass tank around that, how high do you think the edges of the glass tank would have to be in order for 25 million gallons to be inside of there? What's your guess?
30 feet.
30 feet, what's your guess? For increasing future demand and or more dry years with little rain, we either have to increase our conservation efforts, possibly look at increasing storage capacity, and then maybe looking at additional sources like desalination, groundwater. But how feasible these options are is questionable. Groundwater, for example, this is a map of California, obviously, showing where groundwater is located. So there is groundwater available throughout the state, but in Marin County, you can see we really don't have much available. So even though some of our customers currently do use private wells for irrigation, Marin's geology typically provides poor groundwater potential. And some estimates have shown that using groundwater could potentially only meet like 2 to 4% of our current demand. So groundwater really isn't a feasible option for us. Other options like increasing our storage capacity, also not cost effective and therefore that feasible. Just increasing our storage capacity by 1%. So our total storage capacity is about 80,000 acre feet. And just increasing that by about 1,000 acre feet would require extensive permitting processes, environmental mitigation issues. And we would have to not only pay for the removal of this extra sedimentation, we would have to find a place to put it all, and it would cost $20 to $30 million alone just to do that. So increasing our storage capacity isn't the most cost-effective option. There's also desalination, which is possibly in our future. It's been shelved currently, but we did talk about that in prior years. But something that could come up again for sure. So the most cost-effective, feasible option for us to meet this increasing demand as population grows is conservation.
remove the groundwater, would it make the ground like weaker? More cycles?
You can, like in Central California, if groundwater becomes overused, then the ground can get compacted and it can't get recharged. So that's another downfall to using groundwater. So these slides are talking about how much people use on a more individual basis. So typically in a household that's not too concerned about conserving, they might drink about a half a gallon of water per person per day. They might leave the tap on when they're brushing their teeth, so they'll use about 5 gallons. And then they might have old fixtures and appliances. If they have an old toilet, it can use 3.5 to 7 gallons per flush. Taking a shower with a shower head that's not efficient can use up to 40 gallons. And then if you've got an old clothes washer, every time you do a load, it can be up to 50 gallons. And the little pictures here are obviously little jugs of water just to help you visualize how much a gallon is. In a household that is concerned with conservation, they can really reduce their usage if they turn off the tap when they're brushing their teeth. You can get that number down to like 1/4 gallon per day. Upgrading your toilet, you can get down to, the new standard is about 1.28 gallons every time you flush. And then you can reduce the amount of gallons you use by installing a more efficient shower head by about half, and same thing with getting a more efficient clothes washer. So changing our habits, like turning off the water when you don't need to be using it and putting in more efficient fixtures can save you a lot of water. You can see the conserving household versus the non-conserving household. The conserving household reduces their water usage by like 2/3. So some things that you can do at home to save water. One really easy trick is to check your toilet for leaks. This animation doesn't seem to be working, but you can either get dye tablets, which are free at the NMWD customer service lobby, or you can use food coloring. You just put a few drops into the tank of your toilet. You wait about 10 or 20 minutes. And after about 10 or 20 minutes, if the water in the bowl is clear, your toilet is fine, it's working properly, no leaks. If you see color, then you probably have a leak. And toilet leaks are really common. Like I said, a bulk of my job is doing site surveys at people's homes. And typically, about 1 in 3 people have a leak in one of their toilets when I visit their house. And a leaking toilet can waste up to 200 gallons per day, so it's really important to check, and it's super easy. Another thing you can do, if you're interested, and I can talk with Mr. Morales after this, is measure the flow rate of all of your fixtures. We use a special, this animation's working, we use a special little bag, and we let water flow into it for 5 seconds. And that tells us roughly how many gallons per minute is coming out of the fixture. For shower heads, 2 gallons per minute or less we consider to be efficient. If your shower is using more than that, then we have free shower heads to give away, so that's another way that you can reduce how much water you use. Test your shower and get a more efficient model. Same thing with sinks. So there's that. And then another important thing you can do is check your irrigation system. in the summertime, about half of people's water usage goes to their landscape. So it's a really easy way to reduce your usage, making sure you don't have any leaks, making sure sprinklers are functioning properly, they're pointed in the correct direction, reviewing how often the schedule runs. Currently, people in Marin are restricted to watering no more than 3 days per week. And we have an irrigation checklist online that you can run through. It's also a good idea if you're interested in conserving water to find out where your water meter is. Every home obviously has one. They're usually out front of the home in the sidewalk or driveway somewhere. And you can actually flip open the lid. There's a little triangle that you'll see on the face. And if everything in the house is off, you're not doing laundry, you're not running the sprinklers, this little triangle should be completely still. If it's not, when you look at the meter, if it's moving around on itself, that means you might have a leak somewhere on your property. So it's just a really easy check that you can do to make sure that you're not losing water unintentionally. And that is the end. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, you said that we get our water from those different reservoirs. Is there a specific one that would feed, like San Rafael High School, or does this all go to one place and mix together and then go out?
There are specific ones. So we have 2 treatment plants, and all of the reservoirs, the water in those go to one of these 2 treatment plants. I think San Rafael is fed from the one at Bon Tempe, so the lakes that feed into that one. And then I think Southern Marin is more the San Geronimo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, guys, do you have any questions about how this might relate to your project, and that now that you have an expert here to ask questions of?
Yes.
Do you know what approximately how much water a school uses every day?
It's hard to say because it depends on the number of students and it depends on the landscaping. Whoever is in charge of paying the water bill can always ask for a water use history from us, and it kind of condenses all of the usage just in one place. It dates back 10 years. And you can look at that and kind of gauge whether or not, based on the number of students, if things seem to be relatively sensible. And I can always help you guys with that, yes.
Where do you see water being used most in high school?
In the high school,
Where do you see
probably with all the irrigation at the sports fields. Takes a lot of water to keep all of that green.
That's why we should get artificial turf.
That's one option.
Is that what a lot of people are doing, say water now is getting artificial grass for their backyards or yards?
Some people are doing that. Some people are also planting plants that don't require as much water as lawns, like the drought tolerant stuff. Because lawns are really, really thirsty. They're not native to California, so they're not adapted to our dry summers. So that's why we have to water them when we aren't getting any rain. Whereas plants that are native and are adapted to our Mediterranean climate, they can go with much less. They're used to not getting water during the summer.
This little area right outside the classroom here was recently changed, and now it's just mulch and drought-tolerant plants. So it's
Nice.
kind of a nice example you guys can check out.
Yeah, you can easily reduce your outdoor irrigation by making those types of changes, putting in drought-tolerant stuff, changing out the equipment.
Do schools and other big, businesses in the county, do they call on Marin Municipal Water District to do audits of their water use?
Yeah, definitely large landscapes. So if you're interested in that,